Hi everybody and welcome to Heel Heat. My name is George Coles and this is going to be an episode of It Came From the Network. On this episode, we're going to review ECW's Massacre on 34th Street. And right at the top, I'm going to tell you I'm probably going to call it Miracle on 34th Street about 100 times. Just because it's a movie I actually like and I actually watch every year. So, if I do mention that, I'm putting it out in the beginning. This comes to us as a recommendation from one of our friends out there, Bucky749 or 749. He had mentioned to do this for a Christmas show. Now, being as Christmas is about 9 months away, or actually more than 9 months away at the time of this recording, 10 months away, I don't think I'd remember that far, so I wanted to get this right out of the way then. And plus, I'm a huge ECW fan, so going back and watching an ECW show, yeah, I'm going to jump at that opportunity. With that being said, if you haven't seen It Came From the Network before, this is where we review the weird, bad, sometimes great, sometimes terrible stuff you can find on the WWE Network formerly. And if you're outside of America, still the WWE Network, but now on Peacock. Jumping right into that, we start the show with a Steve Corino promo, followed by Joel Gertner and Joey Styles in the middle of the ring, kind of setting up what's going to happen. We get the ECW promo. One thing I want to mention, watching ECW on the network, a lot of people talk about how the music really takes away from the overall production, and I agree it does, being that they used how should I say this? They use licensed music that they shouldn't have in the original versions of this. So one of the things that really takes away from it, if you're not looking at the match card, you don't necessarily know who's coming out when the music hits, because nobody's music is relevant to what it was then. Like, for instance, the Sandman came out to enter Sandman. You hear that, you know it's going to be Sandman. Tommy Dreamer came out to Alice in Chains as Man in the Box. If you hear that, you know Tommy Dreamer's coming. With that, it's kind of a weird thing, because it's almost like every time until you see the person, it's a surprise who's coming. Again, to me, I agree it takes away from the production. Overall, the in-ring product does still stand up, though. So we're going to go right into that, off of that little segue we took there. First match of the night, a tag team match. Christian York and Joey Matthews versus Simon Diamond and Johnny Swinger. And yes, it is the same Swinger that we're watching on Impact Wrestling right now. This match was for the services of Dawn Marie, who heavily implied with a lot of sexual innuendo in the beginning of the match. This was a really, really good opener. Four guys this is towards the end of ECW. I think there's less than 6 months left of the company at this point. Actually, even less than that, maybe less than 2 or 3 months. I believe the last show they ran was in January, and they officially ceased to be a company in March or April, I believe. So this is within a couple months of it dying. But you see here, like, Matthews and York were an upcoming tag team where you could see that they were going to be a future tag team to contend with in ECW. Same with Simon Diamond and Johnny Swinger. Simon Diamond, to me, had a lot of the same vibes that an MJF has today. I thought he was someone that was going to do really well in wrestling, and he had a decent run in TNA. I just don't think, maybe if ECW would have kept going, if WCW, where his talent would have worked a little better, would have kept going, maybe he would have had a better career. And again, he did have a solid career, and he's a big agent behind the scenes nowadays, so you can't really hate the man for his career, but I digress. Matthews and York pick up the win here. This was a good match. I'm going to give this match a solid 4. And coming off of that, our next match of the night, Easy Money, another person that fits into that, someone who probably should have had a better career than he did, versus Balls Mahoney. We had a lot of outside people here, Chris Hammer, Coolio De Niro, and Elektra, who were in Easy Money's faction, who all kind of had a money gimmick. Chris Hamrick was Confederate currency. Chris Hamrick. This was a good match again. This was a solid match between historically a brawler, who Balls actually was a really good wrestler as well, and Easy Money, who was more of a high-flying, innovative high flyer type, like along the veins of a Rob Van Dam or a Sabu. They had a very good match here. I liked it a lot. You see everybody gets involved. Nova comes down and gets involved after the match. Easy Money picks up the win after basically everybody makes it so he wins. I'm going to give this match a 3. And then we get a common ECW trope. Because of everybody that was involved, we get a match built out of nothing. We get Nova versus Julio De Niro. And I kind of dig that. I like that unpredictability and chaos factor that would be in the ECW shows. It's one of the things that really drew me to ECW, where WWE talks about anything can happen. ECW really felt like anything could happen, whether it be the ring collapse or a fan getting set on fire or just a random match getting made out of nowhere that nobody expected. It really did feel like anything could happen here. This was another really solid match. Nova picks up the win to kind of even out the faces in this quasi-confrontation. I'm going to give this one a 3, much like the one just before it. I thought it was a really, really solid match. Now, coming off of that, we have the FBI, which at this point is Little Guido and Tony Mamaluke, with Big Sally Graciano with them, versus Danny Doering and Roadkill. The gimmick of this is it was for the tag team titles, and if Danny Doering and Roadkill did not win, they were going to stop being a team. Again, just another really solid match again. Some guys in there, Tony Mamaluke, Danny Doering, Roadkill, they were just starting to get where they would go in ECW, and I think if ECW would have continued on, another 3 more of the guys, Nova, like I said before, I think Nova was on a trajectory to where they were going to build him into a main event guy. I think they would have built the tag team division off of Danny Doering and Roadkill for the next couple of years. I thought this was a really good match. Doering and Roadkill pick up the win here. I'm going to give this a 3 again. I thought these were 3 solid matches, or actually 4 solid matches in a row to start off the show. Now, coming off of that, what I would consider one of the last great feuds of ECW, C.W. Anderson versus Tommy Dreamer, the guy who was the body and soul and embodiment of what ECW meant, Tommy Dreamer, versus the new upstart in C.W. Anderson. This was more of a brawling type match. Tommy Dreamer had some nagging injuries at the time. We see during the match, Talboy gets involved, which it was one of those things I forgot but didn't forget. I remember Talboy, but I kind of forgot that he was a thing at a point, and he would be used in ways where he got attacked here by C.W. Anderson. He would get attacked by guys like Rhino, Mike Awesome, stuff like that, as he was cleaning the ring, and it became part of the show. We see Louis Dangerously, who was formerly Sign Guy Dudley, come out, which brings out Paul Heyman, formerly Paul E. Dangerously. This was a really solid match despite all of the overbooking. It was overbooked a lot here. And if you watch this and you watch some of the times, like a few shows ago, I reviewed a WCW show and I talked about how every match seemed to be overbooked. ECW had a lot of the same constraints, but they found a way to be overbooked and also make it feel relevant to what was happening. It wasn't just people were running in for no sake of anything, just to run in. And it wasn't every single match. Yes, there was some overbooking. If you look at the Attitude Era in WWE, it suffered from that as well. It was part of this era of wrestling. CW picked up the win here, CW Anderson. I'm going to give this match a 4. Again, the card just keeps putting out really good matches. Now, next up, I toyed with actually not even reviewing this for the show. And it was Rhino versus Spike Dudley. Nothing against Rhino. Nothing against Spike Dudley. I like both guys. I love their talents. And this was actually a really decent match. However, we get to the end and we see Spike Dudley throw up in the ring. And I'm gonna talk about this more than the match. During the match, there were a couple spots where Spike Dudley hit his head. I didn't look this up. I don't remember if this was the case, but I feel like legitimately Spike Dudley got a concussion during the match, which caused him to throw up, and they used it as part of the match. Now, again, a different time, different senses. This is before CTE was a thing. This was before the Chris Benoit event. So I don't want to say I want to give him a pass, but I also know that it's a product of the time. Rhino wins the match here. It just, to me, without getting that visual confirmation that something, that a wrestler that I like, that someone I enjoy, got injured in this, and in a way that probably could have been avoided, it kind of took a lot away from the match, if that makes sense. I'm going to give the match 1 just because if there wasn't that issue, I'd probably give this a 3. But because of that and how much it took away and how uncomfortable it made me feel, I give it a 1. Now, coming from that, and I know this is a lot of 2022, looking back at something that happened in 2000. I get that. So, again, I'm just saying, and I'm the biggest ECW supporter there is. So I understand if you disagree with me. Coming off of that, we get a little bit of a promo with Jack Victory and Steve Corino in the back. Francine comes in the back, basically offers herself up to Corino, who then says, well, go in here and you and Jack have fun. I'm trying to say this as politically correct as I can. Then you see them go in a room. Corino's like, well, I do got an hour before my match. So he goes to knock on the door, which brings in Just Incredible to attack him. Normally I don't review these things, but I thought this was funny and interesting. And also, again, another product of the time. Something like this probably wouldn't fly today. But again, I didn't find it as disrespectful. I didn't find that it felt like they were using Francine in a way that was outside of her character, if that makes sense. She wasn't just there for TNA. She was there to use her TNA to basically, and I'm not talking about total nonstop action, her TNA to set up a situation where the person she was working with, Just Incredible, could attack Steve Corino and weaken him for a later match in the night. Again, I enjoyed it, so I wanted to talk about it here, and also how it's not a PC thing, but it can work even in a PC world. I think if you did this today, it could still potentially work, even though there'd be backlash against it. Coming from that, we get the Unholy Alliance, which was reunited with the Sinister Minister, who had taken a little bit of time off for an injury. We get Mikey Whipwreck and Tajiri versus Super Crazy, and Super Crazy gets a surprise partner of his choice, which ends up being Kid Cash. I thought, again, this was a really good tag team match. This is kind of, you could see the footprints of where tag team wrestling is now. In this match, you could see the evolution starting here. This would be something that you could easily see the Young Bucks doing today, Proud and Powerful doing today, Private Party doing this. I thought this was a really good match. There was a lot of high spots, a lot of the car crash aspects that tag team wrestling has kind of become. And it felt really cool. These were guys I really enjoyed. Mikey Whipwreck, Tajiri, Super Crazy, Kid Cash even. Kid Cash, another one of the guys that I mentioned, would have been the future of ECW going forward. I thought this was a really solid match. Mikey Whipwreck and Tajiri pick up the win here. I'm going to give this one a 4. Now, coming from that, last but not least, our main event of the evening for the ECW World Heavyweight Championship, a 3-way dance, which was a match that ECW made famous. Jerry Lynn versus Just Incredible versus the champion Steve Corino. I thought this was a very solid match. It had everything that made ECW special. It had the technical stylings of Lynn, Incredible, and Corino were all great technical wrestlers. Just Incredible had a little bit more of a brawling side to this. Steve Corino with a little bit more of the old school psychology. Jerry Lynn, which with what people claim the flippy style or the light heavyweight or cruiserweight style in this. I thought this was a really good match. I liked it a whole lot. I thought it was a great main event, and I honestly think that this main event was the best match of the night. And again, Steve Corino, again, someone I think is criminally underrated. Really great wrestler, but because he never really wrestled for WWE, he doesn't get brought up a lot. But he really should, because he was awesome, and he was awesome here. Corino picks up the win. I'm going to give the match a 5. After the match, we see the Sandman come in and steal Steve Corino's belt, which would be the storyline going forward. Again, a really good match. The whole Massacre, I knew I would do it. The whole Massacre on 34th Street show was really good, really solid all the way through. Just a time capsule to see where ECW might have went. You know, some of the guys, York and Matthews, Easy Money, Nova getting a bigger role, Doering and Roadkill, C.W. Anderson, Rhino, who already had cemented himself in the main event, but he was still very early in his career. Mikey Whipwreck, Tajiri, Super Crazy and Kid Cash, the 3 guys in the main event. You've seen the next generation of ECW and where it would have went. If ECW would have ran another 3-4 years, a lot of the people you've seen on this card might have been in the main event scene. Tajiri would have almost definitely been a world champion at some point. Rhino did become a world champion. C.W. Anderson probably would have been a world champion. Easy Money could have been a world champion. Nova, just based on how they were building him here. Heck, Simon Diamond, if they could have kept him and used him much like MJF is being used now, Simon Diamond could have even been a world champion. But it was great to kind of see where ECW is going with not a lot of the people that are historically known as ECW guys. Taz isn't on the show, Raven, Shane Douglas, the Pitbulls, the Public Enemy, the Dudleys. None of them are here at this point. But you still see, even with missing most of those guys, the Sabus, the Rob Van Dams, the New Jacks, they still were able to pull off a really great show. Overall, I'm going to give the show a 4. I thought it was really solid from the top to bottom. I recommend it being something you go back and watching. And speaking of recommendations, I'd be remiss to say it again, Bucky 749 or 749. Thank you again for the recommendation. I definitely appreciate that. And I know you made a couple more recommendations, which we're going to work on. You'll probably see them. I don't know how soon, but I promise we've got them. We got something in the books. But anyway, with that being said, please like and comment, share this out there, everything that all the YouTube people say. If you haven't subscribed already and you like what we're doing here, please click the subscribe button. It really helps us out. It helps YouTube creators. Even if you go to other shows and you find something you like, comment, share, subscribe to them too, because it really helps creators out when you do stuff like that. And before we go off the air, if you've watched this far, I know that you're a fan or a friend of the show. I like to call you friends of the show, and you enjoy what we're doing here. If you've watched this far, put Enter Sandman down in the comments. With that being said, my name is George Coles, and this has been another episode of It Came From the Network.